Hi, everybody. It's Chike Coleman. I'm back again with Chuck Koplinski on another lovely, lovely Saturday.
I'm Google Webbing.
Google Webbing with the idea of doing Real Reviews Cinematic Underground again. And this week we saw films as usual. And Chuck, what did you see this week?
What did I see? I'm trying to think. What did I see? It was all so unmemorable. Oh, I saw Lawless. And last night I saw Possession.
Ooh.
It was a last-minute decision. I went and saw Possession. Let's get Lawless out of the way, and then we'll talk about Possession.
Sounds good to me.
Lawless, what a mess. Movie actually has a 3-hour cut.
Does it?
Apparently, it premiered at Cannes this past spring, and a 3-hour cut. And the Weinstein Company got the distribution rights for the American. Of course, you know, us Americans, we're dumb. We can't sit through them really long movies.
Yeah, we got to cut down like 30 minutes of the darn thing.
30 minutes, buddy. Hey, try about an hour and 5.
Hour and 5?
Yeah, movie has a running time about 1:55 now.
That's cheating it, I think.
Well, you know, I'm hoping, you know, with DVDs, they usually throw out, you know,
an
sometimes
extended cut, director's cut.
I'm hoping that shows up when the film is released on DVD, because right now it's a bit of a mess. And I think they've got a good movie there somewhere. Based on a book, on a true story called The Wettest County in the World. I love that title. Yeah. And it deals with moonshiners in the backwoods of Virginia. Shia LaBeouf, Tom Hardy, and I believe the other guy's name is Jason Clarke. They play 3 brothers. They are doing well, making their hooch, selling it, and then the outsiders come in. A bunch of Chicago mobsters. One of them is played by Gary Oldman, who has a grand entrance into the movie. He wants to come in and get his finger in the pie. And then there's another guy played by Guy Pearce, who is supposedly a law officer, a deputy. That's a name
he's a dirty
only.
Cop.
Well, he's not even a dirty cop. He is a gangster. But he's represented as a cop. Pierce, boy, they obviously let him do what he wanted to do. He has a haircut that he obviously split with a cleaver right down the middle of his head, and he has no eyebrows. No eyebrows. He's the freakiest looking guy ever. No eyebrows. And he overacts, I mean,
of course,
to a great extent.
That's what I would expect from him, though.
Oldman disappears about halfway through the movie. Character is there, and then for some odd reason he's gone. There's no explanation.
Is there a strong performance anywhere in the film?
I don't know. Everyone goes on and on about Hardy, but all he does is kind of grunt and groan throughout the movie.
That's what I've been told.
You know, I mean, the guy has charisma. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No matter what film he's in, you tend to
gravitate. Yeah,
you're looking to see what's he going to do. I can understand the character. There's an interesting aspect of it. He considers himself very lucky. They talk about incidents in which he was in the war and other things in which he escapes death, in which, you know, this guy is supposed to die and somehow walks away. So he has this aura about him. And there's an incident in the film in which the gangsters get him, and you know there's no way he's getting out of this. And somehow he does. And they need to explore that a bit more, too. But there's a relationship between him and Jessica Chastain.
Who I love Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, how can you not love her? And she's great here. Shia LaBeouf has a relationship with Mia Wasikowska from Alice in Wonderland.
That just seems awkward to me.
Well, it's interesting because she comes from a very devout religious family.
Oh.
And, of course, her dad is a member of the religious community. I don't know if he's a pastor or a deacon or whatever. Okay. Wasn't quite sure the denomination. One of the neat moments of the film is Shia shows up at church one Sunday.
Ooh.
Completely uninvited.
Okay.
Doesn't go well.
Oh, I would imagine not.
But obviously they have problems, but by the end of the movie, those problems are magically solved. So there's a lot of big plot gaps that need more explanation, and I'm hoping that we get the complete film, because as it is now, it's a mess.
Okay. I saw Compliance. The number one thing I want to say about Compliance is this. It's a true story. True story about a girl who, for all intents and purposes, gets duped into believing that a police officer is calling to try and get money from her because the cop believes that she took money from the restaurant. And he seeks out the manager of this restaurant to prove that this girl took money from the restaurant.
Now, this girl is a worker at the restaurant. Yes, a worker. And the manager is the one who he gets on the phone,
yes,
correct?
Correct.
Right.
And what follows is the strangest progression of events that I've ever heard of happening in real life. The cop persuades the manager to strip search, I kid you not, strip search this worker, this employee, and then a bunch of series of other things that I will not go into detail to because I'm too appalled that they existed in real life, happened to this girl as a result of this guy posing as a cop. Now, here's the thing about this film, Compliance, directed by this guy named Chris Zobel. There are major problems with this film. I believed the manager. I believed the pain of the actual employee, but her performance felt stilted. The actress who plays the employee, her performance felt a bit stilted. I felt like it was a cash grab. The entire movie felt to me like a cash grab. I didn't feel like the characters were really the actual people. You want to feel like you can feel angry for this girl by the end of the movie. And while you're angry that these things go on, it doesn't really pass your radar. It doesn't really register, or at least it didn't register with me personally. It didn't really register that, oh, this is happening and this is awful. It was more like, oh, this is a performance of something that happened that was awful. And as a result, the movie itself is awful. Because I wanted authenticity. I wanted to feel really, really bad. Like, I wanted to be able to say, I want to go to the jail cell where this manager lives and where this guy who did this lives and give them a stern talking to. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like, oh, this is such a horrible thing that happened to this person, but that's about it. There was nothing else to really gravitate towards. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say I didn't feel sympathy because I did. But I think that the problem when you say this is based on a true story is that I want something that's going to make me feel like, okay, this is a bad thing, number one. Number two, I really feel like this film would have been better suited as a documentary, accounting not only just that one girl's story that actually made headlines, but the other, I think, 70 cases that occurred in 30 U.S. states. I would have loved to see a documentary on this thing and how it was pulled off and interviews from the real people about how they felt about the whole thing. I didn't really feel like I got that with this dramatization of the one singular event that made headlines. And that was my problem with the film.
Do you know if they ever made arrests in any of these cases?
They did for the actual perpetrator and the manager of the fast food establishment who agreed to go along with all of these horrid acts was fired from her job. All in all said, I do not like this film. I would give it 1 star. It's nothing to watch. If you're bored on a Friday night, I wouldn't say watch this.
You were bored on a Friday night, weren't you?
Yes, I was. The other film that I saw was Safe with Jason Statham, and who else was in this? I don't remember if there was another.
Nobody.
There wasn't really another lead actor that was really prominent in this. Basically, do you want to go into the plot of Safe? Because I believe you saw this, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Did not. Okay. Well, the plot is very basic. You've got this girl who has a photographic memory, who the Chinese mob and the Russian mob try to get a hold of because they wanted to memorize some numbers that's actually a combination to a safe that holds about $15 million in it.
How many numbers are in the combination?
I don't know. They never went into...
They couldn't write it down?
They couldn't... It's not that they couldn't write it down.
There's pencil and paper, you know.
They wanted to trust it to a person for some reason because they all want a piece of that money. And of course...
What if she decides not to tell them?
Oh, she can't decide not to tell them because her mother is sick and is being used as a bargaining chip. This girl is about 10 years old, 10 years old. So what happens is basically the girl finds a way to escape from the Chinese mob and is being chased by the Russian mob. And you have Jason Statham's character, who's this down-and-out wrestler who basically was forced by the mob to try and take a fall from a match, and he didn't, so his wife gets killed, and he loses everything that he holds dear and basically becomes homeless. what happens next is rather uneventful and not really that intriguing. Of course, Jason Statham's character runs into the little girl and having trouble on the train with these Russian guys, the same Russian guys that have killed his wife, and he decides to save her. What happens after that is basically your basic cat and mouse chase of them trying to evade the pursuers of not only the Chinese mob, the Russian mob, but also the crooked Chicago, or not, is it Chicago or New York? I believe it's New York. Let's say it's New York for the purposes of this.
It's New York.
It's the New York police. Mm-hmm. And basically what follows is that cat and mouse chase game, and them evading one pursuer after another. Is it really that valuable of a film to watch? No, not really. Jason Statham does his best to dial in his I'm the lone, quiet action hero who, when somebody's in trouble, I will save them act is played here to great effect. But really, there's no emotional connection. I've not really seen a movie of great emotional connection from Jason Statham since I saw The Bank Job in, what was that, 2008? Other than that, this film was really seriously uneventful for me. I didn't really feel like I could be invested in the chase. I mean, the chase sequences were well directed, and the acting by Statham and the Chinese girl was well done. But I really didn't feel like they had any sort of a bond at all throughout the film, and I didn't really feel like there was any sort of connectivity between him as a forced retired New York cop and his old New York cop squad mates that he was.
I thought he was a wrestler.
He posed as a wrestler after he got fired from being a New York cop.
Oh, okay.
Which is really weird, because that thread of him being a fighter is never brought back to after the one scene you see him before a fight. That's it. You see him once, and that life of his is never referenced again throughout the film. But you learn that he was part of this elite squad and whatnot. But none of that really connects with me. You don't really feel like he was ever really a part of that group. You don't really feel like he was ever in any danger himself. So it was a very flat movie. All in all, a very uneventful week in terms of movie watching. I am intrigued to see Lawless. I know that you're telling me essentially that it's not that solid of a film because of the amount of running time cut, but I'm still interested in seeing it. In terms of other movies that I'm looking forward to seeing, there's a movie called On the Road, which stars Kristen Stewart. That seems like it might be moderately interesting. Considering it's Kristen Stewart, that's a compliment. Other movies that I'm looking forward to currently, I still I'm interested in seeing The Odd Life of Timothy Green, and I know that it doesn't really have a great shelf life here at the movies left, but it seems like it will be interesting. I know that one thing that's happening coming soon in the theaters is they're doing a double feature of, I believe it's Marnie and the Birds, I guess. It's
not a double feature.
It's not a double feature?
They're just running the Birds.
They're just running the Birds. Okay. I know that HBO is doing a biopic of sorts of Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Birds and Marnie. So that's going to, I think that's why they're deciding to play The Birds now. Either that or they're trying to capitalize on Halloween. I do not know which.
It's Universal's 100th anniversary this year, and they're going to be showing, in celebration of that, they'll be showing The Birds on, I believe, September 19th in theaters.
Okay.
And also in October, for the 100th celebration, they're going to have the double feature of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
Right, which you said you were excited.
Yes, and then in November, they're going to run To Kill a Mockingbird.
Which that I think would be an interesting film to see on the big screen.
This is a great idea to go back, especially on the anniversary, 100th anniversary, to go back and look at the classics and throw them up on the big screen. What I don't understand is that they're only doing it 3 times.
Yeah.
And they've waited until September to start this. I mean, they should have been doing this every month of the year for your 100th anniversary.
And just highlighting all their biggest successes.
There's no shortage of films in the Universal library that you could point out there. And Paramount missed the boat as well. This year is their 100th anniversary as well. I know that both studios put out a special series of DVDs to celebrate, but Paramount has not done anything to show their films on the big screen. So they've missed the boat.
And that shocks me a bit, considering how
all good stuff,
how wide and vast of brilliant films their catalog is.
Yeah.
Are there films that you're also looking forward to in the coming weeks?
I don't know. I think I mentioned The Master. I'm looking forward to The Master.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that finally, but I don't understand it. You might have to illuminate me a bit. I know that it has it's Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right.
But I don't understand the plot. Can you explain that to the viewers?
I don't really know much of the plot either, and I think that purposely he is keeping it under wraps. And frankly, I don't want to know. I've complained again and again that trailers and previews give far too much away. I would be very happy if I never saw another trailer in my life. So I kind of like that they are holding the cards close to their vest. From my understanding, this is based on although he says it's not based, everyone points that this is the life of L. Ron Hubbard, the guy who starts Scientology. And the Philip Seymour Hoffman character is
the leader.
Yes, the guy who comes up with this. I believe Amy Adams is in this as well.
Yeah, Amy Adams is having a terrific year, by the way, because she's in Lawless, she's in The Master.
She's not.
Wait,
she's not in Lawless.
Who
Jessica Chastain.
What movie was I thinking of that she is in?
She's in Trouble with the Curve.
Trouble with the Curve.
Which comes out in about 2 or 3 weeks.
And she's in another film that I cannot remember for the life of me right now.
It'll come to you.
I'll look on the IMDb while you're explaining the film.
And in The Master, Joaquin Phoenix is there as well. His first film since his pseudo breakdown or put-up job or whatever that thing was a couple years back. From my understanding, I believe that he's a drifter. He's run into some problems, and the Hoffman character takes him under his wing to try and get his life back on track. And his beliefs are a little bit unorthodox, and I believe that this movement then starts with him. Again, that's all I know. That's all I want to know. The less I know, the better.
I respect that.
So, but this is the one that everyone's pointing to already as starting the awards season. And we've got obviously a long way to go. There are a lot of other potential award winners, best film of the year candidates coming out within the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I was right.
With The Master.
I was right. She's in On the Road.
She's on the road, okay.
She's in On the Road, she's in The Master, and she's in Trouble with the Curve this year, as well as a film called Lullaby. And then next year she'll have Man of Steel. And they're talking about a sequel to Enchanted.
Really? Hadn't heard that.
Which I don't know whether that's actually confirmed or not. But they're talking about it right now, actually. The other thing I wanted to point out to our viewers is, for those of you who are fans of Lord of the Rings, they've actually confirmed the 3rd chapter now. I forget what the second...
You mean The Hobbit?
I'm sorry. The Hobbit. The 3 films are going to be released, the first 2 in December of 2012 and 2013, and then the last one will be released in July of 2014.
Okay.
So you only have to wait 6 months for the final film. And I don't really believe that they should have made a 3rd film. I really don't think that was financially viable.
Oh, I think it is.
Well, I mean, yes, there's a fan base there.
Financially viable, I think it's great. Narratively, we'll see what happens.
Narratively speaking, I don't agree with it either. I think financially, it's a waste of money to do a 3rd film. Even though you have that solid existing fan base, I think it's a waste of money. And I think it would have been fine with the 2 films, but I guess Peter Jackson likes his trilogies, and I can't.
Peter Jackson's a very, very good filmmaker, so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I do have my doubts, my suspicions about this as well.
There's another film, I don't believe we talked about it, but you can tell me if we did, Cloud Atlas.
I think we mentioned it in
by
passing.
The Wachowskis.
The Wachowskis
Did you see that trailer yet?
Yes, I have.
Had you seen it previously when we talked about it? Do you remember?
I think I did.
Okay. I'm still very excited about Cloud Atlas. I'm going to be shouting that one from the rooftops for quite some time, because I think it's very ambitious to do a through line of life and the progression of how life can be affected from one human being to another, and having these, what, 6 or 7 actors?
I think so.
Play multiple roles in a film where you get added levels of dimension the further you go into different time periods. I think that's interesting and unique. I think that's something that people don't touch a lot. Did you see Cosmopolis, by the way?
Not yet.
Are you planning to?
Yes.
And that's Cronenberg, correct?
Yes.
I'm curious about that film.
So am I.
Because I don't really know what it involves. That's another one where the trailer doesn't help you much.
It's based on a book by Dan DeLeo, and it came out in 2002, and it really was prescient as far as our financial collapse is concerned. Robert Pattinson's in it, and he plays a high-level financier, controls billions of dollars, and basically the movie takes place in the back of his limousine, most of it. He's trying to get across town, Manhattan, to get a haircut. Traffic is god-awful, apparently, and through the wonders of, mobile communications and things, he's able to converse with people, contact people, have them actually come meet him at the limousine, because he can say, I'm stuck here and here. But he's going to make a big financial deal, and it's a risk. And if it succeeds, he's even going to be richer than usual. If not, then it could spell the end of our financial system. It would be that massive. And so it deals with that, but also apparently it deals with just how emotionally remote this guy has become because of his money. Thus him being, the whole thing where it is he's basically trapped in the limousine. That makes him remote. The limousine, I've read, comes to represent a coffin. And that
would
he
make
is
sense.
Emotionally dead as well. There was some criticism for casting Pattinson, but I think that is why he was cast. He is not an emotive actor by any means. He is very cold. And I think
that
that's why
works
he
in
was
his
cast.
favor, though.
For this role, for the proper role, yes. And Cronenberg, of course, is a master. I'm sure he looked at it as a challenge of, okay, how do I do a whole film in such a confined space? One of my favorite filmmakers, so again, he's a guy I give plenty of rope to. Let's see what you're going to do. Let's see where you're going to go. And I'm hoping to see it this week at some point.
There is another film that I haven't mentioned yet, and it's a film by Brian De Palma, who I hadn't heard of since Mission Impossible, frankly. I know he's had other work since then, but it's not been work that's been on my radar. This new film that he has out, however, or that's coming out, is going to be on my radar. It's called Passion, and I believe it's one of those, there's a way to say this, jilted lover kind of movies, in the same sense Bound was a crime sci-fi epic with Jennifer Tilly and whoever the other actress was.
Gina Gershon.
Yeah. The same feels like it's true here, except it's high-powered executives who feel like one of them was cheated out of, a promotion or something, and these two become partners in a business that could both either make them really rich or ruin them. And there's also a romantic subplot.
There's some hot sex there too, between the two women.
Of some kind.
Let's hope so.
And it's Rachel McAdams, and I believe Noomi Rapace is the other lead in the film. And from the way it's shot, I think it's very interesting. You really get to see a bit of the turmoil of these actors. Although none of the story is really indicated, I had to find this out by reading IMDb. But I think it's going to be an interesting film for De Palma. I haven't seen a great film from him since Mission Impossible, and before that, Blowout. I really enjoyed Mission Impossible. Can you not side with me on that?
No, I had no idea what was going on half the time.
Yeah, I think the whole pulling off the mask of faces was probably an issue.
Yeah.
And I know that one other thing you wanted to talk about in the last few minutes here was Tony Scott.
Okay.
I think the only film, this is really bad of me, but the only film that I've seen for Tony Scott, actually I've seen two, I take that back. Unstoppable, I liked Unstoppable. And I also saw Man on Fire. I love both of those films from him.
Yeah, Tony Scott committed suicide about 2 weeks ago, brother of Ridley Scott. which is why we're talking about him.
Right, and he was also the producer or executive producer on a show called
They
Numbers.
Produced a lot of things.
Yeah, he did.
Came to prominence primarily with Top Gun. I mean, that was the movie that
Top
made,
Gun and Days
yeah.
of Thunder.
Never really achieved the success of Top Gun, but of course he didn't have to. That put him on the landscape, made Tom Cruise a star. I mean, he was on his way, and that put him over the top. Yeah, and then they followed that up with Days of Thunder, a very underrated stock car film, NASCAR. Enjoyed that film. I think his strongest film is Man on Fire.
Yeah,
I really like that film as well.
I would agree there.
But again, another one that is great is True Romance, based on a script written by Quentin Tarantino. Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette are lovers on the run. They have run afoul of a bunch of mobsters. They're headed to Hollywood. It does not work out all that well for anyone. A great scene, one of the best scenes the past 2 decades in this film, True Romance, with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper.
That would be a good scene.
Christopher Walken is a mobster. Dennis Hopper is the father of the Christian Slater character, and Walken wants to find out where Slater is. So he and Hopper sit down and have a talk, and it is really quite something. You get that Tarantino dialogue. It really crackles. It's a Tarantino script that works without Tarantino directing. True Romance. If you haven't seen that one, you need to check that out, along with Man on Fire. I think those two are his best.
I thought Dakota Fanning was the shining thing about Man on Fire for me.
Well, you know, the thing with Scott was he always was trying to do things interesting in a visual way.
Yeah, and no more visual than that film.
Well, sometimes it became a distraction. If
It
you
did.
watch a film like Domino, you become so conscious of what he's doing visually, you're not really concentrating on the story. You can't really, because
Yeah.
it's such a distraction. But Man on Fire, what he's doing with the camera and lighting and movement underscores what the characters are going through, and it bolsters the story, it adds to the story. It doesn't become a distraction.
It becomes an added dimension rather than a detractor.
Right, and Fanning and Washington and Christopher Walken there. I mean, great cast. He worked with Washington more than anyone.
Yeah.
They made 4 films together.
Including The Taking of Pelham 1.
Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, which was the nadir of that relationship, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Man on Fire, Crimson Tide, great submarine film with Gene Hackman.
Oh, anything with Gene Hackman.
And then another film called Deja Vu, another kind of pseudo time travel movie, which was kind of interesting too. But yeah, Tony Scott, interesting guy. Gonna miss him.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Chike Coleman, and this has been Real Review Cinematic Underground. See you guys later.